Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All of our guests today on this Monday are sponsored by Basant Motors. We are back, and so is Basant Motors. So is Basant Motors Scholarship. Who wrote this? Bigger than ever, with $33,000 in scholarships awarded. I'll learn more at basantmotors.com. After that read, I am no longer eligible for a scholarship. As we bring in from the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, CBS Sports, and Westwood One, he worked the Bills and Cardinals Sunday in Buffalo. Our friend Ross Tucker. Long time no talk to Ross. How are you, sir?
Awesome. How are you guys doing? Nice to see you. Nice to talk with you. It's been a while.
Yeah,
nice to see you.
Right back at you. How are you? How was your annual ski trip?
I am fantastic. The ski trip was wild because it was, I want to do the math right. I think it was 13 straight days of skiing.
Ooh.
And I held up pretty well, I would say, till like day 10 or 11. And then I had some pretty bad patella tendonitis. And I just kept skiing anyway. I'm like a bell-to-bell guy, right? So right when they open it, I'm there. I ski all day until it's closed. Then I go and I have a terrific après ski and meal, and then I go to bed early. And believe it or not, I actually work out in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Before I then go ski all day. So I think I did 5 days in Vail with my high school buddies, including half a day Sunday morning before I flew to Utah. Did like 8 days in Utah, which was awesome. The answer is it was awesome, but I've had to do like some rehab and stretches ever since because evidently that's a lot on your quads to ski at 260 pounds for 13 straight days for 7 hours every day.
Wow. All that physical activity explains why you're looking so good and sounding so good yesterday. Bills and Cardinals. Bills end up winning that game 34-28. They had to come back to do that. Where are they at? Where's Josh Allen at? Where are the Bills at as a team that might contend for a Super Bowl?
I think they're pretty much where they have been. I really do. I mean, I know they don't have Stephon Diggs anymore, but I think they still have enough at receiver. You know, Khalil Shakir was highly efficient last year, and he made some impressive plays yesterday. I mean, the one touchdown where he kind of like corkscrewed his body in. He had another catch, critical play where he bounced off a defender. Shakir has some unique ability. They really have something there with Khalil Shakir. And then I think the offensive line's fine. The defense is a little bit more concerning, right? Because Matt Milano is out for a while. They've got 2 new safeties. And then the thing to keep an eye on is Taron Johnson, their nickelback, who went out early in the game yesterday. He's arguably the best nickel in the league. So to not have him, that would be a huge loss. I mean, you can argue that Taron Johnson and Matt Milano are their 2 best defensive players. So that would be big. But Josh Allen is just so fun to watch. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got the whole experience, right? We got the 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. I guess I read somewhere where he's done that 4 times now. Nobody else has ever done that, which is cool. He was like flying through the air, but he also had a fumble. I mean, that's the Josh Allen experience.
Hey, Ross, Tyreek Hill, my goodness, gets detained, released by the police on his way to the game. You know, he's dealing with that. Then he gets in the game, 80-yard touchdown, 130 yards receiving. I can't imagine what was going through his head. It's hard enough to prepare for an NFL game, Ross, without going through what he did. Were you surprised he did as well as he did?
No, not really. I mean, he's an unbelievable player. He had done everything during the week to prepare for the game. I guess I'm more curious about hearing about just how long he was detained.
Yeah.
And the thing that's troubling to me about that is, you know, Tyreek Hill has a history, and people can think whatever they want about Tyreek Hill based on that history. That's fine. Calais Campbell also has a history. And that history is being the Walter Payton Man of the Year in the NFL. And evidently he said after the game that he was handcuffed as well when he came and saw Tyreek Hill and he tried to de-escalate the situation. He got handcuffed as well. That is concerning to me. I don't know what the process is there. Maybe that's just standard operating procedure if someone's comes over while someone else is being detained. I don't know, but it sounds like those guys all had, cameras on, body cams. So I think there will be a lot more information coming out because the Calais Campbell part's the one that especially troubles me.
Hey, Ross, the Seahawks, not a great first half, good second half. You got the new head coach, Mike McDonald, new coordinators, the whole 9 yards. What are your views on this team? Talk a little bit about the win over Denver, but what do you like about their offseason moves and what they can do this year?
I think the Seahawks are pretty much – it's funny because I don't know. I mean, there's teams I won't say this about, but there's a bunch of teams that I feel like in week one at least – to use the Dennis Green line, they are who we thought they were. Yeah. I mean, the Seahawks offensive line had its struggles. We saw that with the two safeties. But then credit to those guys. They run blocked better in the second half for Kenneth Walker. We know they've got good receivers. Geno Smith had that nice long run. That's a part of his game I feel like that's a little bit underrated, and he deserves some credit for his ability to make some plays with his legs. And I think the defense is kind of just okay. They were able to turn over Bo Nix a couple times. He struggled when he was driving the ball down the field. I think the Seahawks are a league average team, would be my guess. The question is now whether Geno Smith can make enough plays and the head coach Mike McDonald can do enough to get them to 9 or 10 wins so that they're in the mix of going to the postseason as opposed to 7 or 8 wins. Because I think they're in that range.
Talking with Ross Tucker. Ross, Tom Brady works his first game for Fox as an NFL analyst. All sorts of criticism, some praise on social media. I thought he was just fine. What advice would you give him? I don't know, maybe he's reached out to you, I'm not sure. But what advice would you give him? And what can you tell people about that job that they might not know?
Number one, it's a lot harder than you think. I think it's a lot easier than people it's a lot easier when you're sitting on the couch and saying, I would make this comment right now. I'd say this right now. I saw this. That's a lot easier than when you're actually there and you have a bunch of monitors and you have a producer in your ear and they're telling you what replay they want to show. And by the way, there's 22 guys on the field. So, you're not necessarily always looking at the same thing as everybody else. I mean, that's kind of the art to it. So that's number one, is that's probably a lot harder of a job than people realize. I'm not worried about that part of it with Tom or the preparation, because I'm sure in fact, he was probably over-prepared. He probably prepared so much that he had so much information that what actually is the key then as a broadcaster is you have all this information. It doesn't matter unless you make sure that you say the important things that you have, the things that you really think are important to mention, and or if you have this information when that play happens in the game, and it may or may not happen, but when it happens, that bam, you're ready, and that's the time when you can drop that information that you had prepared going into it. I was driving back from Buffalo to my house in central Pennsylvania. I didn't get a chance to hear 1 second. So I can't really comment on from my perspective other than I'd be scared to go back and watch my first game. Now, thankfully, my first game was not the Cowboys and the Browns.
Yes.
It was Penn Yale. Although I will say this, Penn Yale was a big game that year in 2007, and it went to triple overtime. So I was hooked as a broadcaster. I was like, this is amazing. Triple overtime. Like, these kids are crying. I was like, I was sold on being a broadcaster that day, my first game ever on TV.
What do you think is harder, being an NFL analyst or hosting a show like this one?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you the hardest of those three would be being a college football analyst. Because
you don't know as much about
week one, I'm doing UCLA, Hawaii. I didn't know any players for UCLA and Hawaii, or not many at least. I knew a couple. And then, by the way, there was probably Hawaii had 69 guys in the pronunciation guide. UCLA had like 35. A lot of Polynesian names. I mean, you can't get that wrong in prime time on CBS, Rick.
Oh.
You can't do that. And so I would say your job seems pretty easy. I mean, you sit there. Rick already has his questions written down like 3 segments in advance. During the commercial break, Rick looks to see if the Canucks, signed a new guy to send down to the AHL, or if anything's happening in junior hockey. I mean, there is no job easier than you guys. So.
I got to text agents all day, Ross. I got to text agents all day. Get the information. Come on.
I have a question, Rick. Yeah. I believe that, right? Like, I believe that that's a huge part of your job.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Oh, I talked to one this morning at 6 o'clock. I got in the car right away. Called him.
No, I mean, do you like your job? Do you like that aspect of your job?
Oh, I love it. I just sit on the couch and text these guys for info all day. They help me out. It's great, Ross.
Yeah, the big takeaway there was sitting on the couch.
The cell phone. Greatest invention, Ross. I get to text people in Sweden, Finland, Russia. It's great.
Yeah, none of them have anything to do with your job. But, hey, Ross, very quickly, Dak Prescott, is he worth $60 schmil a year?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the way today's NFL is and what the salary cap is, if you can get top 5 quarterback play, I mean, let's just say there was no salary cap. How much do you think like David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, would pay for top 5 quarterback play? I mean, and then we can go right down the line. Tennessee Titans, I mean, there's a bunch of teams that if you said you can have Dak playing the way Dak has played the last couple of years, for the next 10 years, they would pay a lot of money because it changes everything. It changes every aspect of an NFL organization. They're more important than the head coach, the GM, the owner. Nothing moves the needle on an NFL franchise like the starting quarterback.
Great to have you back, Ross. Thanks so much. Great to hear that you had a good time off and great listening to you yesterday. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You bet.